Welcome to Pods with Posh and Paul, a podcast designed to inspire and challenge listeners through story, experience and insight. To face adversity, learn from suffering and discover how to embrace life with a heart filled with love and gratitude. We are so thrilled to have you journey with us and can't wait to share your stories. Join Sue O'Callaghan and Joanne Webb as we disrupt the theory that everyone has perfect lives.
And today we are joined by Cam. Cam, how do you say your surname? Because I keep saying it wrong.
Calkoen.
Calkoen. I keep Calkoen, but I need to get...
I've had it all. But if you get it somewhat right, then that's cool. So, I've been introduced as Andrew Calhoun once. And, you're doing good. You're doing good.
We nailed
it again, Joe. Say it again.
Cam Calkoen. There you go. That's very good. Cam is National Speaker of the Year here in New Zealand 2020. Cam was an athlete. He was a sprinter. He has climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and he has just recently been on a tour around New Zealand with the National Young Leader Days and has seen almost 18,000 students.
In a month.
In a month.
Only a month.
That is
amazing.
Phenomenal.
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Woohoo!
I'm glad we agree 4 weeks is a month.
It's always a bit hit and miss. But, I mean, we're obviously going to get to know Cam along the way as we speak today. And we're thrilled to have Cam with us. It's very exciting. Obviously, everything went a little bit pear-shaped last week, but we're here today and we're going to nail it. And Cam doesn't let anything hold him back. And we're all about mental health on this podcast. We're all about inspiration, finding people who can nail barriers and break them down and get through it. And Cam is certainly one of those people. So, Cam, where should we start?
Well, thanks for the introduction. Thanks for having me here. And it's just always great to be in a room on a podcast and just talking about our attitudes, perceptions, who we're going to be. Mm-hmm. And, yeah.
So, Cam, you have achieved the unachievable, and that's the title of our podcast today.
Nice.
And, you know, we are so grateful to have you here. You're such an inspiration to Joe and I. We love listening to you speak. I was playing one of your talks the other day to my teenage children, and Perfect. They were, wow, such an inspiration. So tell us a little bit about your life. Tell us, first of all, obstacles that came against you, because we are very much, how do we overcome obstacles? How do we achieve the unachievable?
Yeah. And so I guess the most obvious is that I was born with cerebral palsy, and people will see that as a big challenge. But for me, it's life as I've always known it, mm-hmm. and grew up with really cool mum and dad. And I remember my tree hut as a kid. It was bigger, more gnarly than any other tree hut. It had windows, it was up a big ladder, it had a massive slide on it. And people would come over for a day at the Calkoens and they'd look up at my tree house and they'd be like, do you really let Cam go all the way up there? What if he falls? To which mum and dad would respond, but what if he made it to the top?
Oh, I love that attitude.
And there were some times when I did fall over, but for getting it back up, I built resilience. And so whatever the challenges in life, that's what I see it all about. Aiming high, and you get over the challenges and you just keep exceeding.
I love that, and that's our message all the time. Sue and I are resilience-based educators, and that's what we go out. We try to educate people on allowing their teenagers, their children to fall down. Allow them to fall down, and whether that's metaphorically or in real life, allow them to fall off the playground, allow them to fail, but show them how they can do it differently next time. That's how we build resilience, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's really a form of does it mean you have to stop, or do you mean you just have to keep going, right? Mm-hmm. And even as a speaker, I remember I never thought I'd become a speaker, but it was a cool opportunity. I said yes. And then I discovered that, hey, you could make this a profession. And I contacted all the bureaus, and people would be like, nah, or send me a newsletter. And I'd be like, no, I want to be in your newsletter, right? People in America saying, hey, Cam, I don't think it would work for you here or anywhere. And I could have seen that as rejection, or I could have seen it as, how do I turn that rejection into affection? And so I'd go and study all the people that they do represent, and I'd realise that these are people that are up on walls, they're inspirations. They've achieved the unachievable. So what would be my unachievable? And that's when I started going to America and speaking in New York and just making those things happen so that now I could prove myself as a speaker who is dedicated to becoming a speaker.
Love it.
And I think the message is so powerful to listeners that what obstacles have you got coming against you? Because those obstacles can be your challenges, but there is a message that you can overcome them as well. When I listened to one of your talks, my favourite all-time story is your egg and spoon race. And I think I'd love you to tell it. But first of all, I think it's also an example of how your parents were so supportive of you growing up as a child. But what happened in that egg and spoon race?
Yeah, so, I mean, the age that you do egg and spoon races, what's that, like 7, 8, 6 years of age? 35, whenever, even better. And I was lining up for my egg and spoon race and really not taking into account how messy that could get, like egg, spoon, cerebral palsy, affecting coordination. And I hear my father, and he called out to me, and he's like, "Cam, over here." And I walked over to Dad, and Dad says, "My boy, you can be whatever you want to be in this world, and if you want to win today, just believe you can." What great words. And with that, he spat out a piece of chewing gum, stuck it on my spoon, and said good luck. And not only did I finish the race with egg intact, I was the only student to defy gravity, crossing the finish line with the egg under my spoon.
Love it.
But when we put that into like a metaphor, isn't that like saying sometimes we all need a little bit of help as well along the way? And it's okay to ask for help when we need help with our challenges.
We all need help, and there's always another way of looking at something, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we're young kids doing an egg and spoon race. I mean, surely we can have a bit of fun with that. We can think, if we can't think outside the box with that, what can we think outside the box on?
Yeah, I love it. It just makes me chuckle every time I think about it.
But even the metaphors in it, if you use that as a metaphor for life, not only can you achieve the unachievable, but you can go further. You didn't only get to the end, but you were the only child with the egg on the underside of your spoon. So actually, we're great believers that challenges in life can promote us further than we would have gone otherwise. We can grow, we can become integrated people, so that if you set your challenge to achieve, you can achieve beyond your wildest dreams. And dreams are really important, aren't they?
Dreams are so important. I mean, there's a risk that people can underestimate the power of a dream, right? And it's airy-fairy and da-da-da. But there were some times in life where life got really tough, and it got really tough because of the perceptions. I never got bullied, I never got a hard time. There was some rejection along the way, but it was rejection for everyone, right? And I got to a tough time, and I did think about the worst, dropping out of life. And at that point, I held on to my dream. And I was like, Cam, you've got this dream where you want to travel, you want to entertain, you want to connect. You have this belief that you were here for a reason and a purpose, and you can achieve some pretty awesome things. And if you give up on that now, you're never going to know, right? You're never going to know. And that's where, for me, the words dream big, achieve more are so important, because through having that dream to travel, to entertain and connect, I went on to be an athlete and a speaker and mentoring people and raising money to build incredible facilities and
And if you'd listen to those first predictions over your life, when somebody is born with cerebral palsy, obviously there's going to be challenges there which perhaps other people don't have. But if you'd listen to those predictions, perhaps you're not going to be the best speaker, or you're not going to be the best runner. Imagine if you'd listened to that, and we've got to be careful about the words that we take on, because people can speak words over us. But actually, we know ourselves so much better than that. And we've got to dig deep, don't we, and find that true belief within us.
Yeah, and people, advisors will play it safe, and they'll look at history and they'll look at the medical journals, and there's good reason for that. But everyone has the ability to to rewrite that, you know, and I guess that's where the earliest form of leadership started, is we can follow and we can do what everyone says we have to do, or we can, when it comes to schools, look for schools that just look to create a great experience. You know, the best school I went to was one where the principal said, we don't have a special needs unit, but we look to create an experience as unique as each and every student that comes into a school.
Yeah.
That was a school where I blossomed. You know, the schools that put people first. I was at an intermediate school where if there was a bit of rubbish left on the ground after school, after lunch, we all got called back. It didn't matter what class we were in, we got taken out of it because it was about respect your environment, respect your people, and with it you can go anywhere.
Love it.
So Cam, I've got a question for you. Joe and I both work obviously in mental health and we work with lots of teenagers who are in depression or anxiety or overwhelm, and they might be listening and say, but I have no dreams. What would you say to somebody who has no dreams, who's unmotivated, can't find their passion? Where do they start?
Yeah, that little voice on the shoulder is such a barrier, right? It's such a disabling thing in our life, and I think we're grown up thinking a dream has to be, what do I want to be? So, you know, like, oh, they want to be a doctor. Oh, they want to be an athlete. They want to go to the moon. And I don't really know what I want to be, right?
So true.
And then there's another way of looking at it of, well, what do you want to do? Okay, and so I kind of think that if someone's out there and they're really true to yourself and you get rid of that voice, you know what you want to be able to do.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to be popular, or you want to be wealthy, or you want to be able to travel, or be surrounded by amazing people. So write those things down and then work backwards from that. Okay, so if I want to be wealthy, just because it's an easy one, what other kind of jobs that would get me
To be wealthy.
there, or who do I need to be in? And go from there.
I love that.
And then, because if you go, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be a speaker, or I want to be an athlete, and you had a barrier along the way, that's a big barrier, because now it's like, I can't be that. Right? Whereas if you're looking at what you want to do, you can just kind of reshift the imagination. If I'd said I want to be an athlete and a speaker as a kid, I would have been up against all sorts of barriers, right? You walk different, you talk different. No one else is like you in doing what you want to do. But I said I wanted to travel, to entertain, and to connect.
Amazing.
And so when things popped up that sort of inspired me to think that could lead to that,
Yeah. I love
I
it.
said yes.
You took the opportunities.
And that's a really good message, because you can have this dream in the future as well, but equally, as you say, it's not always a straight line to get there, is there? You know, it takes twists and turns, and you have to and if you close your eyes and ears to opportunities, you're going to miss them. Whereas if you can be open to that feeling of what it is you're looking for, you know, as you say, I want connection, I want to travel, or I want excitement, or I want adventure. Well, then your eyes are open, your ears are open, and you actually see the opportunities and you find them in front of you.
Yeah. And don't think of a dream as being an very impossibility, you know, just see it as something that creates a goal and then an opportunity, and what you do with those opportunities is up to you. I remember at high school and getting into drama, because I knew drama would be a place where I'd meet interesting, fun, cool people. It wasn't that I was a confident, outgoing, or doing my speaking or any of that thing, but I knew that drama would be an environment where I'd meet interesting people.
Yeah.
So you're speaking about finding your passion and what are your strengths, what are your skill set. If you're at school, it might be music, it might be drama, it might be science, it might be creativity, it might be sport, but actually to throw yourself into the area where you're interested in doing it.
Yeah.
There's a lovely saying, life is about closing the gap between who you are and who you want to be.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Totally.
And
I
also,
love it. Who said that?
I don't know, it's one I found on the internet,
That's
but
cool.
also Michelle Obama says the only limit to the height of your achievements is the reach of your dreams and the willingness to work for them. So obviously there's a passion that comes behind it. How willing are you to work for your dreams?
Totally. I was up Kilimanjaro a couple of years ago, and I was up with amazing people. And on the way down, these are people who had worked with Sir Richard Branson, performed with Pink, Madonna, Kylie Minogue, people who had gone from broke to multi-millionaires in 10 years. And I asked them all, like, at what point, what did you do to reach your level of success, a level of success that other people would only dream of? And they always said, well, the consistent theme was at the point of getting comfortable, we challenged ourselves further. And I think that's something that I was like, yeah, I can see that, with my athletics. I got to a point where I was in the top 10 in the world and achieved some really cool results, but I was comfortable, and I never wanted to be comfortable. I didn't want to just be competing in something once a month.
Yeah.
I wanted to be competitive in a place where the only thing getting in the way of my competition would be my imagination. And as a speaker, that just became more and more obvious that, man, if you want to speak 3-4 days a week, you can. And so for me, that's my competition, not in the way of being better or wanting to beat people, but in the way of being busy and working hard and getting the results that you strive towards.
And that goes over all of your life, doesn't it? Because you've asked of all these people who are up Mount Kilimanjaro what was their level of success, and it was when they felt comfortable, they pushed themselves. But there you were on Mount Kilimanjaro, all of you. So you'd had certain success in your professional lives, perhaps, but there you were doing something which is pushing you yet again out of your comfort zone. And when we do that, we do meet the most incredible people, don't we? Whether it's running we're talking about running half marathons, or even if it's a 10K for you.
I did do one once.
Yeah, or an ultra marathon, Mount Kilimanjaro. These are such amazing things to push us out of our comfort zone, and I'm a firm believer in that. We should be doing that all the time.
It's the best, personal and professional development I've ever done, and when I think about all those sort of adventures, it's in those times where you get that outside perspective, that external view on your life. You realise, even COVID last year, right? And we were in lockdown, you realise what you can do with what you have.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm just hearing through all of this is that you can achieve your dreams, you can achieve the unachievable, but what stops us is obstacles that come in between. Now, the definition of an obstacle is a thing that blocks one's way or hinders progress. So for you, the obvious obstacle was the cerebral palsy. You've not let that set you back. For other people, it might be money. It might be the words that other people have spoken into your life as listeners. But often, as we've covered slightly, is the words in our own head, isn't it? And Joe's an ultra-marathon runner. You get to the 50K mark of your 100 and you must have a voice in your head speaking over you. But what's that voice that's speaking in your head? Is it ever negative? I'm fascinated. Do you ever have a negative head in your voice saying you can't?
A negative head in your voice?
Sorry, a negative voice in your head. Well, do you ever
I was just trying to work that out myself.
negative head in your voice?
Well, I'm still real confused about a negative voice in my head.
I do.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've met anyone who doesn't. It's just about being, I think, awareness of that, and being aware of, well, is that the voice I want to listen to, or even coming here and I was running late and I could feel myself thinking of, oh, I'm late and I'm behind the scene and I'm behind the game, and you felt everything inside tensing up and my thinking, and then what am I going to say? But I could also just life is life, and the unexpected does happen sometimes, and we're breathing into it. And I made sure I drank my water, and I decided what energy I wanted to bring in to this room. And so when I said, oh yeah, it's open arms and hugs, and I'm sorry we're late, but let's cool, let's pick it up, and that energy, that vibe that we tell ourselves is it takes practice, but it's something that is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, because it's what we spout off all the time, isn't it, Sue? Everyone has that negative voice in their head. So please, whoever's listening, whoever's watching, please know you're not alone. Everyone has that negative voice in their head, but it can be turned around. But it still crops up even after practice. And practice doesn't make perfect on this time. You keep practicing and you keep talking against it, because actually the biggest obstacle, what Sue has just pointed out, the biggest obstacle in your life will be you and the thoughts in your own head.
Not your head.
Not
your voice.
Not the head in your voice, the voice in your head.
The voice in the head is the big, people say, speaking with these 18,000 young people over a month, and what is the biggest challenge you've had to overcome? And every single time it's the head, right? Because even, when it's that time when you're rejected and being told you can't be a speaker because you talk funny, right? Or you're not clear enough, or whatever all those words were, it was the little voice inside the head that then said, well, do you want to be beaten by that, or do you want to try and find a way of turning that around? Yeah. Do you want to keep going? And it's not keeping going it's never about proving someone wrong. People go, oh, do you wish you could see the doctors that told you all that? No, I don't. Do you feel that the lady in America who said you can't make it, do you feel that she was unfair on you? No, I don't, because she's got a job to do. She's getting hundreds of applications every single day for people who want to be speakers, right? She's got to have her bar up here, and then it's up to that person to turn it around.
Yeah. Put your energy where it needs to go. Don't bother looking back. Don't bother looking back at all the negatives. Put that good energy into something different. That's probably the message there, isn't it, along the way?
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? Because I know that you have gone and spoke to all of these children and young people who are, possibly our young leaders of the future, and that excites us, doesn't it, Sue? Because we do a lot of work in schools, we do a lot of work with teenagers and parents, so it really excites me. But I think when I was listening to your TED talk as well, your message is, why is everybody trying to be normal?
Yeah.
What is normal? And we see this with people who are in anxiety, who are in stress, who have such bad image of themselves, because everybody's trying to fit into a place where they're trying to be normal. Now, we love not being normal, don't we? So, is that your big message to these young people?
Just be different and be you, and when I got a letter, I used to watch a TV show called Havoc, and it was a guy called Jeremy Wells and Mikey Havoc, and so Jeremy Wells is now on 7 Sharp, and he's on the radio in the morning, and he's done all this awesome stuff, and he, in this letter to me, wrote, the people who count in this world look for those who are different.
Yeah.
And that difference isn't in someone's way they walk or talk or look, it may be, but often, difference is also the way in which you think, the way in which you think in ways in which no one else does, the way in which you're able to achieve what other people can only dream of. There's something different about you that enables that, whether it's the work ethic of, a top NBA basketballer doing hundreds and thousands of shots every single day. As a speaker, a speech is very similar each time, but every single time before each speech, there's 8, 10, 12 hours prep that goes into that speech to make sure that you hit it out of the park for what that audience needs, right? And it may be that little tweak along the way, and it may just be one sentence or the addition of something or the subtraction of something that makes the difference for that audience.
Yeah. I love that, because especially when you talk about being different, we'll have listeners here that have come from adverse circumstances in their childhood, and I think I've worked with people in prison. I work now with mothers whose children are in prison, children who've been expelled from school, and there's always a negative connotation attached to it. And I say, if you can turn that around, use everything for your favour, for good, nothing needs to hold you back. So even when obstacles come against you, use that as the differential point, that I was in prison, I got expelled from school, look where I'm at now, nothing can stop you, not even the obstacles.
Yeah.
But your obstacle could be actually what's different about you, couldn't it? Being expelled from school, for example. Children that really struggled at school, children that failed exams. I failed my exams at school, but I went on to do. Nothing can hold you back.
Yeah, and that's where that perspective, right? Because people can be quick to hear someone's story and go, yeah, but they were lucky, you know. How lucky was it that Cam got to go to, you know, move from one school to a school that had no barriers? Or how lucky was it that he got that letter from Jeremy Wells? Or how lucky is it that he had the best coaches and all that stuff? But life's a reflection of what you see and what you do and what you create. And we see this all the time. I went to what was the biggest school in New Zealand, right? And there were 3,500 students when I was at Rangitoto College. People at the school have gone completely different ways, you know? You see it with siblings, they go completely different ways, yet they have the same parents. So, you know, you can be fortunate to have those people in your lives, but that's where you are the leader of your team. You know, it's important to have a team around you, but the decisions that you make are everything.
So, you are obviously like this positive little ball of energy, which we love. What is your recipe for taking care of Cam? For taking care of you, to keep you in the tip-top mental health state and physical state? What's your recipe for living?
Be kind to myself. That's number one, because things, you know, change. You can't always get to the gym. You can't always have some time out. Something might come up. So to be kind to yourself is number one. And then in knowing that it's okay to stop. It's okay to watch half an hour of Shortland Street. Like, we're growing up in this environment where everyone's like, hustle, you've got to work hard. If you ain't working hard, you're dying. You can sleep when you're dead, you know, all that kind of stuff. And for me, like, and again, everyone's different, but for me, you know, it's about perception, and it's about what's going to make me happy right now, because if I'm happy as many times as I can be in a day, in a month, in a year, I know that I'll perform to my optimum.
Yeah.
Amazing. I want to ask you a question, if I can, about your goals. There's a saying, goals, we love them, we hate them, we should never live without them. What are your goals for the future?
Yeah. So my goals have been those goals since I was a kid at the top of my treehouse, and wanting to live a life where I can travel, where I can entertain, and where I can connect. And that's got me into athletics, that got me into speaking, it got me to this podcast now. And so where that will be in 10, 15 years, I'm not entirely sure, but I believe that travelling, entertaining and connecting will be something I'll be doing forever.
And we hope the world's travel might open up.
Yeah,
again.
But you know, when the world went to travel, again, perception. So, you know, I've been doing 145, 100 speeches a year, all over the world. Last year, we were scheduled, me and my girlfriend, scheduled to move to Los Angeles to be based out of there, and when the bubble happened and COVID happened, and overnight every job was gone. Because I had one event of 24,000 people at one event. That would have been the biggest event in my life. Yeah. Like, it takes me a year to speak to that many people in New Zealand. This month was a little bit different, but and so the travel was, well, I may not be able to jump on a plane, but my voice can still travel, right? And so that's when I started looking at podcasts and YouTube and just finding ways to get it oh, well, I may not be able to entertain in the room, but can we get the videos out there? And I can't connect with people in the way in which I love, of face-to-face and shaking hands, but I was able to reconnect with everyone who had been part of a journey.
Amazing.
And that reconnection is so important. Like, it's so easy to get into the dream and the goal and boom, boom, boom. And for the last 16 years of my life, everything had been about faster, stronger, better, more audiences. And that's all good until tomorrow becomes really uncertain, right?
Yep.
In fact, the world might even stop. And no one who doesn't know you is really looking for you then, but everyone who's been part of that journey will do whatever they can to support you. So I think for the goals, it's really important now to, always to go back to people. Same with your mentors. Anyone who's given you advice along the way, go back to them and be like, wow, thank you so much, because of that advice or that connection, this is what I've now done. And chances are that person will say, cool, have you thought about doing this? And that's where really great mentoring happens.
We love mentors, don't we, Sue?
We do. We're big advocates to mentor other people and also be mentored yourself.
Because we all need to be pushed, don't we? We all need to be challenged. And we know you're never at the top of your game, ever, 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 are you? There's always another step you can take.
And it doesn't have to be a mentor in person. It could be a mentor on YouTube. It could be, Cam could be your mentor. And the ripple effect that is so huge, isn't it? As we're mentored ourselves, then we can go on and give to other people as well and be an inspiration. It doesn't mean you need to be older than them, but just slightly ahead of them on the road that they want supporting, whether it's work, whether it's relationships, whatever that might be.
And then being a mentor is awesome gratitude, right? Because it's giving you that moment to stop and actually reflect on, you know, what enabled us to create this. And like what I was saying before, the goals of always looking forward, just having the ability to look back and go, well, this is where I was. And I can remember when I was 12 or 18 and 24 and what that felt like.
And so is your father still in the background spitting out his chewing gum?
Yeah, well, he's really healthy these days, so I don't know what kind of chewing gum it is. But, my father's in the background, my mum's in the background, and that background of people just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know, that background of people is when I step into that scary environment, and every single time I step on the stage, it's a scary environment, you know, doing that heaps. But because you're vulnerable, you're in front of an audience of people you don't know. And although I may feel alone on that stage, I don't because I think of all those people that I'm doing it for. Winning the medals, you know, was a cool thing of being able to show that to every single person who had believed in me. And again, the question that comes up of what do you do when people don't believe in you? And I just choose to focus on those who do believe in me.
Yeah, absolutely, because you can be told 10 no's and 1 yes, and you're going to take that opportunity, aren't you? And there's always going to be people who don't believe in you. There's always going to be the people who don't like you, because we can't be liked or believed by everybody. So, as you say, put that energy in the right place.
Yeah.
And that's a choice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a choice.
Oh, I love it. And I love the fact that you've gone out and spoke to 18,000 children. That must have been quite different than doing your normal, like, you know, when you do your corporate events and you're going into a room full of adults, and all of a sudden you're on a stage full of, when you're in front of a group of children, because I think children are a bit more frightening than adults, don't you?
But awesome. And so these children are intermediate age, so what's that, like 9, 10, 11? And you look at them and it's easy. Just as it's easy for them to make assumptions about me, it's easy for me to make assumptions about them. Yeah, you know, what experiences have they had? Tell you what, you get a question time, and the questions that come out of them are so articulate, so mature, and questions that I'm sure adults would love to ask, but just don't. And none of it's around, like, the obvious stuff. It's often around, like, you know, how do you keep going when people tell you can't? Or what happens when people tell you they hate just amazingly deep stuff.
And it
So
comes,
you look at and can think, these are kids, have they had that experience? And they have.
and it comes back again to that voice in our head, doesn't it? You know, what's the voice in our head? That's why I love your phrase, dream big, achieve more. Cam Calkoen, what is the final message you'd like to put out there to our listeners before we come to a close?
Yeah, I think there's so many opportunities to this question, but that thing of eliminating assumption from your head, you know, and I love the quote of, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
I like it.
So assume. And it's so true, because again, when I get in front of an audience, there can be assumptions, you know, and 20 minutes before that talk, before this podcast, we could have walked past each other and made all kinds of assumptions, right? Good, bad, in between, whatever. And within this communication, we've, you know, laughed, cried, fought, and realised we have way more in common than what makes us different. And so getting rid of assumption and talking with people, like really truly talking to people, fill up the car with petrol. Hey mate, how's it going? Good. Or go, yeah, cool, what made it awesome? Or, you know, and it's not about being being someone you're not, but just being interested.
Nice. Be curious. We like that.
Be curious and be awesome. And that's why I love awesome, because awesome's not the same as cool, great, fantastic. It's that, but it brings about awe.
Yeah.
Which can be scary, which can get your knees shaking, your butterflies flying. But you get to the other side of that. You get to the end of the interview, end of the podcast, and it went to plan, and you're like, that was awesome.
Well, I just want to say, from Sue and I, thank you so much. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank
Obviously,
you.
that's the most obvious. But thank you for being an inspiration. Thank you for going out there and chasing your dreams, and then going out to inspire all of the people that you speak to. Because I bet you every single person in the room, whenever you speak to them, goes away with one bit of information, at least one nugget of information that puts that fire in their belly to do something different. So thank you so much.
Thank you for being you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you would like to connect with Cam or book him for a speaking engagement, please do head to his website, camcalkoen.com. The address is also in the show notes. Thanks so much for being with us today. For us to inspire others to live their magnificently imperfect life, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or on your podcast app. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Pods with Posh and Pool. We can't wait for you to join us on our next episode. Love, light and peace.